People look for the shortcut, the hack. And if you came here looking for that, you won't find it. The shortcut is a lie. The hack doesn't get you there. And if you want to take the easy road, it won't take you to where you want to be. Stronger, smarter, faster, healthier, better, 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 free. Reach goals and overcome obstacles and be the best version of you possible will not happen by itself.
Akira.
It will not happen cutting corners, taking shortcuts, or looking for the easy way. There is no easy way. There is only hard work, late nights, early mornings, practice, repetition, study, sweat, blood, toil, frustration, and discipline. Discipline. There must be discipline. Discipline. Discipline.
That worked for me pointed out to me. He would call me up or pull me aside with some major problem, some issue that was going on, and he'd say, "Boss, we got this and that and the other thing," and I'd look at him and I'd say, "Good." One day he was telling me about some issue that he was having. He said, "I already know what you're gonna say," and I said, "Well, what am I gonna say?" He said, "You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. 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 You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. Good. So that's what you always say. When something is wrong and going bad, you always just look at me and say good. Good. And I said, well, yeah, and I mean it. And that is how I feel when things are going bad. There's gonna be some good that's gonna come from it. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. We can keep it simple. Didn't get promoted. Good. More time to get better. Didn't get funded. Good. We own more of the company. Didn't get the job you wanted. Good. You can get more experience and build a better resume. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good. 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 You're gonna say good. You're gonna say good.
The future's good.
You're gonna say good.
Future exciting. Something I look forward to. You know, with Tesla, we're like trying to make things that people love. How many things can you buy that you really love? That really give you joy? So rare, so rare. I wish there were more things. That's what we're trying to do. Just make things that somebody loves. Like, what are the set of things that can be done to make the future better? You know, I think that a future where we are a spacefaring civilization out there among the stars, that's what we should strive for. Out there among the stars, this is very exciting. Out there among the stars, that's what we should strive for. This makes me look forward to the future. It makes me want that future.
There's a myth. There is in the beginning the divine bird which lays the egg of the world. And the egg splits. And the upper is the heavens and the lower is the earth. So when the worlds are manifested, the Lord breathing out says, hung. And when the worlds are withdrawn, the breath comes back. But if you say hung, sa, hung, sa, hung, sa, hung, it becomes sa, hung, sa, sa, ahang. That means, sa means that, the truth, ahang, I am that. Imagine when we get to the final moment in which the world is blown up. Imagine the countdown. This is the end. Somebody's pushed the button.
Akira.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
About how you're not going to get rich. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business, to gain your financial freedom.
This is probably one of the absolute most important points. People seem to think that you can create wealth and make money through work. It's probably not going to work. There are many reasons for that, but the most basic is just that your inputs are very closely tied to your output. In almost any salaried job, even the one that's paying a lot per hour, like a lawyer or a doctor, you're still putting in the hours, and every hour you get paid. So what that means is when you're sleeping, you're not earning. When you're retired, you're not earning. When you're on vacation, you're not earning. And you can't earn non-linearly.
You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business. You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity to gain your financial freedom. Your financial freedom.
If you look at even doctors who get rich, like really rich, it's because they open a business. They open like a private practice, and that private practice builds a brand. Essentially, you're working for somebody else. And that person is taking on the risk and has the accountability and the intellectual property and the brand. So they're just not going to pay you enough. They're going to pay you the bare minimum that they have to get you to do the job. And that can be a high bare minimum, but it's still not going to be true wealth where you're retired. You're not creating new things for society. You're just doing things over and over. You're essentially replaceable because you're now doing a set role. Most set roles can be taught. If they can be taught, like in a school, then eventually you'll be competing with someone who's got more recent knowledge, who's been taught, and is coming in to replace you. You're much more likely to be doing a job that can be eventually replaced by a robot or by AI.
You're not going to get rich renting out your time, renting out your time, renting out out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity in a piece of a business. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. Renting out your time. Renting out your time. You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity and gain your financial freedom.
There's no call to higher being. This is also why, I've mentioned to people that they should clean up their rooms. That's become quite the internet meme. But I'm really serious about it because it's really hard to do that. And it isn't just that you clean it up. You also make it beautiful. 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 It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. What's really cool is if you learn to make something beautiful, even one thing, if you can just make one thing in your life beautiful, then you've established a relationship with beauty. And then you can start to expand that relationship with beauty out into the world, like into other elements of your life. And that is so worthwhile. It's just incredibly, crazily worthwhile. Make it beautiful. 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 It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile.
The reason why I got everything's a scam in a neon sign in my apartment is because I think that's the most optimistic message you can think of every day. So I wanted to remind myself of that every morning when I woke up.
And the reason why I think it's optimistic is that you see all these different problems, right? All these things in the world. And you're like, well, I don't understand that thing. Like, I don't understand.
In my case,
longevity research and science and hard work. I don't understand any of these things in a deeply technical way. I want to affect them. A lot of the reasons why people don't go into different fields is they think, well, there's this kind of expert status around this field, which means I can't ever infiltrate it. And the thing that I want to remember every day is that expertise is a scam. It's like a power hierarchy that's been created within an industry to prevent other people from being able to go and get into it. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Academia is a scam. Venture capital is a scam. Everything's a fucking scam. Right? But if you realize that, then you can do anything. Why I think remembering everything is a scam is important is that it boosts your self-efficacy to remind yourself that if everything's a scam, then if you have high integrity and you want to go solve a problem, it's probably the case that it'll take you pretty far. More far than trying to play the traditional game, which is a scam. So, to me, everything is a scam is not a negative thing. It's a reminder to just play the game. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game. Any game you want to play, just go play it. It's just a fucking game. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's a scam. Academia is a scam. Venture capital is a scam. Everything's a fucking scam. Right? But if you realize that, then you can do anything.
Let's look at this next tweet, which I thought was cryptic and also super interesting about the kind of job or career that you might have. Is that the internet has massively broadened the possible space of careers. Most people haven't figured this out yet.
The fundamental property of the internet, more than any other single thing, is it connects every human to each other human on the planet. You can now reach everyone, whether it's by emailing them personally, whether it's by broadcasting to them on Twitter, whether it's by putting up a website they come and access. So the internet is an inter-networking tool. It connects everybody. That is its superpower. The internet means that you can find your audience for your product or your talent and skill, no matter how far away they are. Any niche obsession, people who collect snakes, people who like to ride hot air balloons, people who like to sail around the world by themselves as one person on a craft, Or there's a show about a woman building people's houses and tidies it up.
Clean up your room.
So whatever niche obsession you have, the internet allows you to scale. Now that's not to say that what you build will be the next Facebook and reach billions of users, but if you just want to reach 50,000 passionate people like you, there's an audience out there for you. The fundamental property of the internet, more than any other single thing, it connects everyone to everyone. Everyone to everyone. That is its superpower. It connects everyone to everyone. It connects everyone to everyone. Everyone to everyone. Everyone to everyone to everyone to everyone.
The outside thing that you see and the inside thing that you are poles of the same magnet, or back and front of the same coin. Without one, there isn't the other. That means, of course, that we are living in the midst of a world of animals, vegetables, mineral atmospheres, astronomical bodies.
Akira.
It's highly intelligent. Its intelligence concentrated, crystallized in our brains. That's where it comes out, see, in any field. The outside thing that you see and the inside thing that you are poles of the same magnet, or back and front of the same coin. Without one, there isn't the other. Let's take any field of forces. Take the chemical solution. And at certain critical points in this chemical solution, the crystals start to form. And so in the same way, the total intelligence of this whole universe crystallizes in human brains, also in other kinds of brains. That's where it really comes out. But it's the total intelligence of the whole field that does this. So we go with the whole thing, interdependent. The outside thing that you see and the inside thing that you are poles of the same magnet, or back and front of the same coin. Without one, there isn't the other.
I should make it clear, I don't believe this stuff. I find believing in these high-flown, complicated synthetic systems to come off sort of like pathology. So I entertain ideas, but I don't give belief over what I do. I'm a meme spreader. What I do? I'm a meme spreader. What I do? I'm a meme spreader. Meme spreader. A meme replicator. Naturally, this question arose in our group. Why us? Why us? Why the aliens revealing the unit field theory of space and time to us? The mushroom just replied without hesitation. Because you don't believe in anything. And that apparently is what's required. Do you all know that Van Morrison song about no guru, no method, no teacher, just you and me and nature in the garden? I think that's actually where it's at. So what I do, I'm a meme spreader. What I do, I'm a meme spreader. What I do, I'm a meme spreader. Meme spreader. A meme replicator.
It does seem to me that anyone who lives in the West, in the Western culture, this time in history, and in this place, for example, that an area twice the size of the US has greened in the last 15 years. There's more forests in the Northern Hemisphere than there were 100 years ago, and more forests in India and China than there were 30 years ago. And then this has gone along with a massively improved standard of living. The child mortality rate in Africa is now the same as it was in Europe in 1952, which is a statistic that I just regard as absolutely miraculous. The rate of poverty is diminishing at an amazing rate, right? Between 2000 and 2012, we have poverty being better than this. And it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this. And it could be so much worse. It's never been better than this. And it could be so much worse. So much worse. So much worse.
To get into the unitive world, underneath, underlying and supporting the everyday practical world, there have to be certain alterations in one's common sense. Now, there are certain ideas, and beyond these ideas, certain feelings that are difficult to get across. Not because they're intellect, not at all because that. But they're unfamiliar. They're strange. We haven't been brought up to accommodate. In exactly the same way that in past times, people knew that the planets were supported in the sky because they were embedded in spheres of crystal. And if they weren't embedded in spheres of crystal, and of course you could see them because you could see through them, they would fall down on the Earth. And now when astronomers finally suggested that there were no crystal spheres, people felt unbelievably insecure. See? They had a terrible time assimilating this idea. Now, do you see what it involves? To assimilate a really new idea, you have to do quite a flip. For example, there's some people whose number system only account for quantities. 1, 2, 3, many. So they don't have any concept of 4 corners to a table. See, a table has many corners. And a pile of pebbles is, in that sense, equivalent in manyness to the 4 corners of the table. Now they have difficulty, you see, in beginning to assimilate the idea of counting through Akira and numbering all those corners or all those pebbles. But we've done that. And so to us that is perfectly simple. But imagine the kind of mentality, the kind of person to whom that is not simple at all. Akira. Now, in exactly the same way, there is here what I'm trying to explain.
What seems a good thing today turns out tomorrow to have been a disaster. What seemed in the moral and spiritual sphere, too, like great figures in times past, are easily seen today as hideous evils. Let's take, for example, the Inquisition.
In its own day, among Catholics, the Holy Inquisition was regarded as we today regard the practice of psychiatry. You see, you feel that in curing a person of cancer, almost anything is justified. The most complex operation, the most weird surgery. People suspended for days and days on end on the end of tubes with X-ray penetration, burning, or people undergoing shock treatment, people locked in the colorless, monotonous corridor, mental institutions. In all good faith, they knew that were terrible things. Awful plagues, imperiling people's souls forever and ever. So any means were justified to cure people of heresy. We don't change. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We can look back at those people and see how evil that was. But we can't see it in ourselves. So therefore, beware. Virtue. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names. We don't change. We're doing the same thing today, but under different names.
Every social animal, and even many animals who aren't social, are embedded in a dominance hierarchy. The dominance hierarchy has a structure. We couldn't call it a dominance hierarchy. Dominance hierarchy A, B, C, thousands of them across thousands of years. What's central to all of them? That's the pyramid of value. What question do you need answered about the pyramid of value? What's at the top? Because that's the ideal. That's the eye at the top of the pyramid. The golden Buddha in the lotus. It's the same thing. The same thing as the crucifix.
Akira.
And that has to do with something like the voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. 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 The voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. These are not arbitrary ideas. They're deeply rooted in biology and culture. They're as deeply rooted in biology as the dominance hierarchy is rooted in biology. And we already know the answer to that. The dominance hierarchy has been around for 350 million years. It's a long time. You don't get to just brush that off and say, well, morality is some sort of second-order cognitive problem. It's like, no, it's not. You have a counter at the bottom of your brain that keeps track of where you are in terms of your status, and it bloody well regulates the sensitivity of your emotions. So if you're at the hierarchy, barely clinging on to the world, everything overwhelms you, and that's because you're damn near dead. And so everything should overwhelm you. You've got no extra resources. You're sunk. And if you're nearer the top, then your serotonin levels go up. You're less sensitive to negative emotion. You're less impulsive. You live longer. Everything works in your favor. Your immune system functions better, and you're oriented at least to some degree towards the medium and long-term future. And you can afford that because all hell isn't loose around you all the time. And so then the question is there a way of being that increases the probability that you're going to move up dominance hierarchies? Well, that doesn't seem to be a particularly provocative proposition. The same thing as the crucifix. And that has to do with something like the voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. 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 The voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. Okay, so back to Jung. See, Jung believed that once we had stopped populating the cosmos with gods, that they went inside. Think about it this way. Archaic person looks at the sky, uses his imagination to populate the sky. What's the sky? Well, it's the constellations. It's the domain of the gods. Well, why? Because the gods understanding. Well, that's what you see when you look up at the sky. So you populate the night sky with figures of your imagination. So the gods are the things that you broadcast out of your imagination and see spread over the world. It's like the contents of your unconscious are manifesting themselves when you encounter the unknown. It's exactly what it is. How else could it be? You're projecting your fantasy onto what you don't understand. That's how you start to cope with what you don't understand. You populate the unknown with deity. Where did they come from? They came from your imagination. Well, what happens when you take them out of the world? Do they disappear? No, they just go back into your imagination. That's the same motif as rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. It's the same idea. Is that the corpses of the gods inhabit your imagination. So where do you go if you need to revivify them? You go into your imagination.
Akira.
He's got clout.